We're back on the road as our cross-country film office tour continues. This week, I'm sitting down to talk with Meg Fister of Film Kentucky to talk about its growing indie film scene and everything the state has to offer filmmakers both while they're on set and off set. Spoiler, it's more than just fried chicken. So without further ado, let's get started. Thank you, Meg, for coming on to the Producer Podcast today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, just kind of to start, share a little bit about kind of yourself and background and how you came to be working with Film Kentucky.
Yeah. So I am a born and raised Kentuckian. I grew up in Louisville and then went away for college, moved to New York and to California for work. I started off in the theater business. I was a casting director and creative producer. And then when I was living in LA, I was working for Center Theater Group, which is the third largest theater in America. And it was incredible to be exposed to the industry from that angle because we had a lot of playwrights and actors and directors who were excited to work in theater, but really moving to TV and film and were in LA for that reason. And so I started to become aware of all of the incredible artists that were in TV and film that I was working with in theater. And we were in this like huge boom of TV, and it was like a golden era. And I started looking at the potential of translating my skills into that medium. And I got a job at Warner Brothers and started working in development. So creating new film and television for them with a producer. And I loved it. I love being on set. I love working collaboratively. I love building the whole world. I loved supporting artists and their vision and seeing it come to life. And so I just could not turn away from it. And I stayed in film and TV for many, many years, then went to NBC Universal and worked there, which was incredible. And then Kentucky had this growing incentive program. It had had a few bumps in the road, but it was starting to get the eye again as they had funded Senate Bill 1 2 years ago and had started really coming out aggressively to compete in the industry. But they hadn't hired a director for the film office. And I started meeting with people here at the cabinet. You know, the cabinet is incredible, the Cabinet of Economic Development, that is, at really being a partner for small businesses and startups and big businesses and tech companies. But they didn't really know the nuances of the film world and kind of the pace of the film world and the uniqueness of every individual film or television series. So they needed someone here with that experience who knew what producers looked for as far as like for their budgets, for partnerships with states. And being a producer in LA, I was always disappointed that every time my studio presented locations for me to shoot, and
Mhm.
Kentucky was never an option. It was never on the table, even though we had this incentive program. So it felt like a really unique opportunity for me to jump in and help my home state really become a part of the conversation and be on the table. And it gave me the opportunity to move back to this beautiful state that I grew up in, bring my children who have only grown up in LA here around their family. So it really was a special opportunity for me.
That's cool, and I think you're one of the first people I've interviewed from film offices that like grew up in the state that they now work uh in that office. A lot of them
Yeah.
grew up elsewhere and somehow landed where they are. For me, I have only been to Kentucky a few times to visit some relatives, never done any film there. Um, so like maybe to start just looking at the state as a whole, what are like unique characteristics or aspects about Kentucky that can benefit films?
Yeah, so for me, what is the best secret about Kentucky is that we really have such a range and diversity of locations here. We have more shorelines than Florida. We
Hmm.
have mountains, we have valleys, we have foothills, we have cities, and then we have rural America. We have horse farms, but then we also have like really incredible brand new facilities. So it's really that. It's the variety that we can offer filmmakers and the fact that we're not that big of a state. So within a 60-mile radius, you can get so much diversity of terrain. And so I think that's something that we can offer. I think also that because we are small, you have an accessibility to us that you don't
Hmm.
have in some of the other major states. Like within an hour, I can get you on the phone with the mayor to shut down a street. I can get you on the phone with the president of the Senate. I can get you on the phone with the governor's team. Like that is how quick Kentucky can move because we all know each other. We can all have access to each other. And like producers need to be able to move quickly.
Hmm.
We know that they have to make decisions like it's going to rain, it's going to snow tomorrow. We have to pivot. And the fact that I and the rest of our regional commissions can be so accessible is like a huge win for filmmakers, especially people working on tight budgets like the indie world, right?
Hmm.
So I feel like the fact that we can cater to that is a huge asset for Kentucky.
Yeah, definitely. So I gotta ask, since you mentioned snow, because I'm from Iowa, and there's definitely the time of the year where it's like if you don't want to deal with potential snow
You
issues,
can't come shoot there at this
you don't
time.
want to shoot there. So like, what does Kentucky get for snow and some of that colder stuff?
So Kentucky gets like 2 to 3 good snows a year, but they're brief. We get several inches and then they're gone in a few days. So you can have it all, really.
Hmm.
You can have that beautiful snow. If you saw Dead Man's Wire that came out recently, we had a huge snow and they pivoted to shoot everything outside for those 3 days. And then the snow was gone and they were good because it looks so cinematic and so stunning. I mean, the benefit of a lot of the southern states is that we have um, all the light that you
Hmm.
can get. Like, you can't cheat that light in Toronto the way we have light for so many hours during the summer, right?
Yeah.
And then we also, because we're a northern southern state, we get snow and we get all of those transitional seasonal weathers too.
Hmm.
So it really is a perfect mix. If you're a filmmaker, you can kind of pick and choose the right season, but you get it all.
Nice. Um, with kind of Kentucky growing in the film industry, like where are things at kind of just with like the production infrastructure, I guess,
Yeah.
that's available?
I think what's exciting is we have a lot of momentum going on. So we've had this incentive program for 2 years. We've had more and more films coming here. We're also bordering a ton of states. So we have like a ton of crew in Northern Kentucky and with like Film Cincinnati has like a
Hmm.
really deep crew base. We have a ton of crew in Louisville, which is growing and borders Southern Indiana. So we have that crew coming in. And then we have down in Southern Kentucky, right? We're basically 30 minutes from Nashville down there. So we have all of that growth and infrastructure happening. And because we are a state that qualifies at a lower extent, but does qualify non-Kentucky residents, we are
Okay.
really flexible about what you can do. Obviously, we would prefer you to hire Kentuckians, so we've incentivized them much higher. And we
Hmm.
have a really great Kentucky bench, but then we also know that we're still growing. So we have included fringes in our new incentive program. We have included things to allow productions to bring in what they need that we don't have all the time or might already be in use in other
Hmm.
films happening at the same time because we want to be able to attract more productions that are concurrent with each other. And then we have stages now. We have a lot of spaces, like commercial spaces being built or reappropriated into sound stages for an indie budget, not just the Class A, really expensive ones.
Right.
We have those. So it's an exciting time because we have this momentum in the infrastructure and workforce side of things. And now with this new legislation that's coming out, we're incentivizing other medias as well. So we're incentivizing commercial video gaming, music videos. And so now
Okay.
hope being that we have more work for our crews throughout the year, and so therefore can retain and grow that crew base
hmm
more.
Since you kind of brought up some of the changes that just got included in the incentive, dive in and kind of unpack
Some of
that
that change.
and what that looks like for Kentucky.
I think so. It's really exciting. We have a real bipartisan supported incentive, which is great and
Hmm
important, I think, in America to have that kind of across the aisle support for this program. It means that we're dependable and that we are here to last, like Kentucky means business. So for the new incentive, yes, we're opening up to new mediums like commercial, video gaming, music videos, really trying to think forward about where work is available, where things are headed in the industry. But what I would love to see personally for Kentucky is a real capture of that indie market. Like, I want Kentucky to be king of the indie. I
hmm
want you to think about us first for that $5 to $30 million budget. Like, I want those films coming and looking at our program, and I think we have a real shot at that market. Like, yes, we also want a handful of high budget studio features down too, but we really want to help those indie producers grow here and have access to our incentive. So we're incentivizing 30 to 35% of qualifying Kentucky expenditures, and it's a fully refundable tax incentive. And we have incredible team here in the Film Kentucky office that works with you and helps you apply. We have so much customer service. It's that Southern hospitality that really makes sure you're doing everything right so that you get the most out of working in Kentucky and really have a great experience with us. It's that accessibility thing. You can call us. And then we have like a turnaround time of getting those incentives back to people. I mean, right now it's in 4 to 6 weeks that you're
Oh,
getting a check.
wow.
So that's incredible. Like, that's a huge ask,
Yes.
right? To get that cash back. We've changed now to include fringes, as I was mentioning, and like cover qualifying production insurance, things like that, big ticket items that they just hadn't thought about in the first iteration of this bill,
hmm
and things that had prevented some of the larger budgets coming here in the past. Um, and I think other changes, we are moving to an online application process to help
Nice.
streamline that up for people. We want it to be really transparent for filmmakers so that they understand how the process works, what they need to provide so that they can, you know, set up their business, their production in the best possible way.
hmm Definitely. And then with like the application, are there certain windows for Kentucky, or is it kind of just whenever, as long as it's so many days before you're hoping to start filming? How does that work?
Right now, the structure is that there are windows, and what we're hoping to do is stretch that out a bit so that more applications can get in the windows, and then our approval process is a little bit more streamlined. So all of that will be available when the new legislation rolls out in July. All of the dates of everything, the deadlines for everything will be available on the website for the first time, just like real clarity of how it
Hmm
works. But we are going to always consider anything that is deemed high impact at a rolling basis as fast as possible.
Okay.
So we're going to have like a very clear impact grading analysis so that people understand, like, I can get this in and I can get to Meg that week and kind of work through the approval process faster.
Hmm. Definitely. And then uh is there like a budget threshold that you have to meet to qualify for these?
Yes. So we are unique in that we have like a Kentucky minimum spend for Kentucky producers
Okay.
and businesses here. And that will be a 200,000 minimum spend for most things except for documentaries, which have a much lower, I think, 20,000 minimum spend. And then for companies and producers outside of Kentucky, it's a $400,000 minimum spend,
Okay.
which is still
Nice.
very accessible.
Yeah, no, definitely. 'Cause I've talked to a few states and it's just like, those levels, it's like you're not going to get any indie
Right.
filmmakers.
Ever. Yeah. No, we want them. I mean, that's what I want Kentucky to be known for is like we want to support these incredible artists and we know that that's also where the industry is thriving right now is that
Hmm.
indie is really at this resurgence moment and so Kentucky wants to be aligned with that.
Yeah. One question would be, is it mainly just like production related expenses or like does post-production and that can that count
Yeah.
too?
Post-production is incentivized here. We love it. We have a lot of growing post-production facilities and producers here, which is great. So yeah, we have a really generous amount of things that can qualify as Kentucky spends as long as they are spent in the Commonwealth.
Okay. Oh, cool. And then with the new legislation, like, is there, because I know a few states have like an unlimited incentive program,
Yeah,
but
isn't that
like,
nice?
yeah, but like, I'm just curious, like, what's kind of like your cap
So
or,
yeah, we do have a cap. We are capped at 75 million a year,
okay.
which is still very generous
Hmm.
comparatively across the states. However, because of our knowing that we are a growing state, in this new legislation, we are allowed to roll over unused funds.
Okay.
So if there were funds that didn't get distributed, then we will be able to use them the following year. And if a film that had been awarded incentives doesn't end up going, as we know sometimes happens,
Hmm.
they can turn them back in early
Okay.
and so we will then be able to recapture all of those. And I think right now, like, there's nothing to force you to turn your incentives in. Like, you can always hold on to them till the very last minute. But I think in building these kind of relationships with us and with producers, I'm hopeful
Mm.
that that ecosystem builds that you would want to return those
Yes,
that you know aren't going to happen for you so that we have that like good relationship with producers.
definitely. Um, I guess I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts on this, and I definitely everything you're telling me about how the updates and changes to the incentive is going to help, but like, one of the big struggles right now in the industry is so many things are going out of country overseas. So like, what are ways that you guys are trying to help make filming here in the US more accessible, I guess?
Yes. I mean, I think what everyone will tell you is that we don't have a federal incentive. So
Mhm.
that is always going to be an issue, right? States are going to be as aggressive as they can be and like are doing the best they can to keep the work in the US. But the very fact that you can't stack them with a federal incentive like you can in so many other countries,
Mhm.
Mexico just came out with a federal incentive now. I think is a huge issue. And I think American producers would like to shoot here and would like to tell stories authentically from here, but they have to make the dollars work for them. And so the fact that Kentucky has one of the top incentive programs come July and is accessible, isn't far for people to get to, and has like is a very affordable state, right? It's
Mhm.
not the costs of some of our coastal states. It is still really affordable to buy here, to build here, to hire here. So I think Kentucky has that advantage over like where I was shooting in Los Angeles. I mean, right now, most of our cities don't require payment for any of their permits. I mean, we
Nice.
are very affordable. And we want to work with you. You know, like our mayors are excited about filming coming to their city. They're excited about helping businesses interact with filming. And I think that's part of my office's job is to help all of these cities really be production ready and to be
Hmm.
strong and responsive to production. And I think that experience will then make you want to prioritize spending your dollars here versus spending them in Ireland.
It's a thing. I've had so many friends that have taken their projects overseas, and it's like, well, we'd love to bring you along, but we gotta hit the quotas of local crew over there to hire and all that.
I
Um,
know.
so I'd love to hear because I feel like across the board, when most filmmakers think, film office, film commission, the incentive is like the main thing they think of them helping with. But like, what are other things that maybe you guys can help with that filmmakers sometimes forget about?
Yeah, so that's a great question because I think everybody just thinks the money first, but there's so many other aspects to filmmaking. I think the fact that we want to be a resource for the producers and filmmakers of who they need to talk to, how they can connect with the region, what regions they should be shooting in. You know, a lot of people have not been to Kentucky. They don't know what there is to offer. So my website has a database of locations and has a database of crew and we're working on it's all changing with the new legislation, but it will show you verified Kentucky residents crews so you know you can count that those are the 35% increase incentive. It will have connections to all of the regional commissions so that you will have all of the information up front. We can help handhold you and bring you to the right people and get you the answers you want immediately. So I think people should think of the film office not just as the incentive questions, but come to us with all questions about shooting in Kentucky because most of the time we know every single person in this
Mhm.
industry and who can answer that for you and who should get on the phone or meet with you.
And then I'd be curious to hear, especially because, like you were saying, there's so many kind of big hubs that surround Kentucky. Like, what's are there areas that you're still working to like grow your crew depth in, or are there areas where it's like, hey, we have a ton of people in this area, so if you are doing projects that call for more G&E than normal or more this than normal, like we can be
We
of
got it.
help.
Yeah, I would say right now I've been talking a lot about how we have this like film triangle in
Hmm.
Kentucky of Northern Kentucky, Lexington and Louisville that really within these 60 miles of each other can give you everything you need as far as crew and infrastructure. However, we have so much growing in Western Kentucky. We have sound stages in Western Kentucky. We have a really growing crew base in Western Kentucky. I think the places that are still up and coming is definitely like Eastern Kentucky. We have so many incredible location assets there, and we have a really excited like population there to have filming happen. You know, things like Red River Gorge. It's got the Natural Bridge, which is one of the wonders of the United
Hmm.
States. We have all these things there. And so now it's starting to build that base of support for filming. But again, Kentucky's not very big. So we can get people there and we can get you set up with the right kind of catering and housing and hotels and all of that pretty quickly. And then we have, you know, our lack of like big airports over there is like probably another issue, but then we also have Virginia right on the border.
Hmm.
Like in southern Kentucky, again, we have the Nashville airport 30 miles away, so that's a massive airport. And then in northern Kentucky, the Cincinnati airport is in Kentucky. It's
Hmm.
a huge hub for American. So we have these like pockets of where we're starting to build out this kind of support that production needs, you know?
So then, as you've been seeing more films, coming in and shooting here and that. I'd be curious to hear like what's kind of the most popular reason they're coming to Kentucky? And then is there like, oh, we really wish more people would come to us because we have this thing or we want to kind of show this aspect of the state off.
I think the reason people are coming, because we have so many producers repeating, right? So we
Okay.
have like Ethan Hawke has shot 3 movies here in the last like 5 years. We have a lot of people who come to us because they like our crew, they like how fast they are, and how responsive they are, because these are all very like indie crews, that are used to working fast and lean.
Yes.
I think they like that we are really hospitable, that like working in our cities is a great experience because business owners love that you're here. People love that you're shutting down the street in front of their offices, which you don't get in a lot of states, right? And
Hmm.
so I think that's a really strong asset of Kentucky is that it's so welcoming in that way. Um, I think for us, one of the things I would love to see more of is because Kentucky has such diversity of locations, we can be anything basically other than a desert. We can be pretty much every place you want to be. I would love for it to be more Kentucky in the
Hmm.
story down the
Yeah.
road. Right now, we have so many films coming in that are cheating for another city or another rural place. And I would love for that identity to be Kentucky's as we start to capture and grow a little bit more. I think the state could really benefit from that. I think
Hmm.
living in California for 15 years, people couldn't even put Kentucky on the map. They like sort of knew where it was. And I just feel like it's important for that secret to come out, like that Kentucky is not just a beautiful and accessible state, but like this is where it is. This is what it looks like. This is what the people are like. And so having more authentic Kentucky stories is really a priority for me personally in this office.
Hmm. No, I love that. Especially the whole like people are excited that their streets are being shut down
Yeah.
because
I mean
yeah.
that's what the news stories are is like, can you believe it's snowing in Somerset? And this is so great. They shut the whole main street down for 4 days. I'm like, wow, I love this coverage.
Hmm. Yeah, that is so nice. So but kind of on that topic then, like I'd be curious, like, what is a piece of advice you'd give to producers when they're coming into maybe some of these smaller towns that film isn't a normal thing?
Mm-hmm. So I think right now, my office is a huge asset to you. That is what I think. And then on that, we will connect you with your regional commission, who will be the partner in that region who knows all of the businesses, who knows all of the players, knows the mayor, knows the economic development people, the tourism people, and can get you what you need. So I think don't hesitate to reach out to us because we want to connect you. And already that's what I'm doing in my office. I'm going to different municipalities and helping them understand what does a location agreement look like? What are the codes of conduct you should expect for production? When a production hires you for catering, what might that mean for you, small business, that lunch is going to be at 2 a.m.? How to work with production so that A, they have a great experience working with production and want
Mhm.
to do it more. But B, when producers come into a small town, they don't have to explain all of that. They don't have to pivot when a restaurant's like, oh, I didn't expect you to have dinner that late. I don't want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
I just want everyone's experience to be better on both ends. We've had a lot of people come in who don't know how to protect their assets. And so I also want that kind of professionalism to grow
Yeah.
across the state so that they don't feel burnt by filming and production. Because I think for everyone's sake, it would be really beneficial for those transactions to go more smoothly.
Mhm. Yes. It sure would. And there's definitely things on our side as the crew and producers that we can probably do better on too.
Yeah.
That. So then kind of starting to wrap it up here, I got some kind of final closing questions. The first one would be What's one piece of advice you'd give to a filmmaker who is getting to ready to work with a film office for the very first time?
I think I would be open and as available as possible to the film office. So I would, I think a lot of people suffer from like feeling like they don't want to ask questions. They want to project that they know what they're doing, they're capable. And I think whenever you're shooting in a new location, no matter how experienced you are as a filmmaker, you should be open to asking as many questions and being as collaborative as possible up front before you arrive or before you start filming. Because I think what you will find out is that the film offices are a wealth of knowledge about how to work successfully in their region. They know so much about their vendors and their crew that can be really an asset to you instead of you just throwing a dart at a crew list and trying to pick who it should be.
Mhm.
We can help guide that. Our regional offices can help guide that, things like that. And then I also think just the application process and the approval process, it's dense, but we're here to like explain and walk you through it. So we want that to be, we want to lower the barrier for everyone. We want to lower it internally here and we want to lower it for producers. So we just want people to be honest and upfront about anything that they're struggling with because we might be able to have solutions for that.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I like the that, especially like how you guys maybe know your crew better
Hmm.
to be able to kind of speed up the hiring process with who might
Yes.
be good fits. I haven't heard that one
Like
before.
our regional commissions know these people really well. And if you're telling them what you need and what you're missing, they will know who to fill in for you.
Nice. So then this is a little bit more of a fun question. But I'm somebody that when I'm on projects, I like to make sure I get out and do some sightseeing
Yes.
on my off time. So like what are maybe a few of your favorite recommendations you'd have for crew members?
So we have so much. Obviously, I've hit the nail on the head about how much diversity we have here. But I would say, so yes, Kentucky is pretty synonymous with bourbon. So we have incredible historic distilleries across the state. So if you're someone that enjoys bourbon, this is a great place to sightsee because you can take tours of these beautiful um, distilleries that are often on huge acreages across. I think it's interesting that you don't have to make bourbon in Kentucky to be considered a bourbon, but 95% of bourbons around the world are made in Kentucky for a reason.
Interesting.
So that's one. And obviously, we have historic horse racing here. So we have Churchill Downs, which is definitely worth visiting, and Keeneland, which is absolutely worth visiting. And they're beautiful and fun to just go for a day. But on top of that, if you're an outdoorsy person, all, we have so many lakes. We have incredible amount of caves. We're on a huge cave system on this state.
Hmm.
So you can go exploring, spelunking if you want. You can go to places like Red River Gorge. You can go onto the Appalachian Mountains here. So there's lots of outdoor adventure to be had. And then as far as like our city life, like Louisville has more independent restaurants per capita than New York City. So we are an incredible foodie town. So if you want to go and have a culinary experience, there is lots to be had in some of our cities and across the state. We have a lot of like really famous Kentucky chefs who have opened small or several restaurants all across the state. So I think food is a great tourism activity in Kentucky. It's
Mhm.
not just fried chicken, which is also good. I think a lot of people have more to learn about Kentucky than just the fried chicken. What always made me proud as a Kentuckian is like there is a rich history of food and culture in the South, but there are only two Southern states that have their own unique identity in that. And I would say it's Louisiana with its Creole
Mhm.
Cajun history, and then it's Kentucky with its bluegrass roots. Our music history is really incredible and long lasting. And so you can go to music venues all across the states. You can see incredible artists in a 80-person music venue up close. And I think our industry is a part of that whole creative heritage in Kentucky. And so finding ways, like I was saying, that are telling more Kentucky stories and are authentically representing Kentucky, I think music has a big part in that story.
Nice. Yeah. No, I did not realize most of that about Kentucky. Although I definitely, the whole fried chicken thing, that's the one I
That's
do
the one
always think
that's
about
broken
a
through.
lot.
Yep.
So then finally just kind of wrapping things up, what's the best way for people to find and get in contact with Film Kentucky?
So we have a brand new website that's launching, and it's going to be filmkentucky.org. And everything you need will be there. So it will have how to apply for the incentive program. It will have databases of crew, vendors, locations, and it will have our regional offices contacts. So if you get really excited about potentially shooting in one county or another, all of those people and their websites will be available. It's going to be a nice, like, one-shop spot for filming in Kentucky.
Nice. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and let you get back to growing the film industry there in Kentucky. But thank you again, Meg, for coming on to the Producer Podcast today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed talking to you.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Producer Podcast. Catch up on all the Film Office Tour episodes today and let us know which office you'd like us to talk to next. Join us again next week for another new episode of the show as season 11 continues. Until then, make sure to subscribe to the Producer Podcast, and thanks for listening.